our major concern going back 8 years ago was to find out where the resources were and follow the money, which we did. And the results has been devastating. We have $10 billion worth of contracts representing 18,000 individual contracts, whereby a number of about over 2,000 of our workers have been laid off, and there's been about 30, there's $800 million worth of fraud and misuse of funds. And so this is why we've called for the hearing, and we're pleased that everybody's here. It has to stop. Every single time there's a contract out, our people are laid off, and they're doing our particular work. And so we're going to be addressing that through, I say, some kind of oversight, which is very, very important. And we felt that perhaps our congressional delegation didn't know what was happening at home, and that's why we have this forum today.
Federal funds allocated to New York City for social services and education have been used to export jobs to countries like Turkey and India. You heard me mention that before. And I think at a time where our economy needs every single job, that is something that we need to address. I think the overarching theme that you see here is the lack of oversight and the lack of responsibility by the local authorities to ensure that the money that's aimed to deliver services in your city provides services to the people it's intended. And so I'll stop there, but I think one of the things that Congress can help us in this case is, number one, there are existing rules within Medicaid and social service programs that ensure that there are some checks and balances, cost analysis that could be done. And we believe that an audit by the Inspector General as far as Medicaid services, as far as the school system is warranted. But we also believe we need legislation that Congressman Nadler mentioned before that would require the city to follow the same federal procurement rules rather than exempt itself from local or state procurement rules by claiming that the federal government has done its due diligence.
Medicaid funding, as you know, coming from the federal government down through the state and to the city, mainly is coming into HHC. 3/4 of HHC's funding is from Medicaid, and it has a tremendous multiplier effect in generating jobs and services, creating over $11 billion of economic activity in New York. So they're a mainstay of the economy here in the city, and any cuts to HHC or to Medicaid funding are going to have dramatic effects. HHC is also moving to contract out direct patient care work, and that's what I really want to focus on today. Up till now, they've been dealing with what they call the non-core mission work, but right now they're moving into dialysis services. So many of us know someone who is, or some of us may even be on dialysis, and you know that that is a life-saving procedure that must be done by skilled, qualified people. The flagship of HHC, Bellevue, has already contracted out their dialysis services to a local vendor that's closely affiliated with NYU Hospital. The other 9 facilities that have acute care and chronic dialysis services are now up for an RFP. HHC will be making a decision on the selection of the vendor in December. This will affect 52 technical titles represented by DC 37, 92 nurses represented by NISNA, and thousands of patients across the city.
I want to say a number of things just to help set the tone for this meeting. As we all have now heard abundantly about, the City Time project is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, scandal in the city's history. Over $600 million wasted on a project that was supposed to originally cost $63 million. City time is unfortunately not the only incident. We also have examples such as the ECTP system that is already years late and hundreds of millions of dollars over budget. We have seen, since I took office as comptroller last year, a pattern that has emerged in recent years. And I want to certainly give credit to DC 37 for putting out the $9 billion white paper a few years ago that started highlighting some of these problems. A problem in the city's contracting process where high-paid consultants are contracted out on an hourly basis without clear deliverables. That kind of time and expense billing scheme does not do taxpayers any favors.
The civil service system was originally established to avoid these kinds of problems. I think Lillian's already alluded to this. And to avoid the kind of corruption you are seeing under the aggressive contracting out policies of the Bloomberg administration. We're committed to working with you. The National Union is committed to working with you to develop a strategy on how to build pressure on the city and on the Congress to deal with these problems. And it's clearly going to be, there's going to clearly need to be much more aggressive oversight.
I congratulate Lillian Roberts and her staff for focusing attention on a very real concern. Are we as taxpayers getting our money's worth with all these private contractors taking over our civil servants? Is this the best use of our tax dollars? And often these contractors do not live in the city of New York, do not participate in our communities, do not pay taxes, and are not part of the solution of helping to move our city and country forward. Recently, 642 members of DC 37 lost their jobs at the Department of Education. They were our lunch workers, our parent coordinators, our school aides, who make every school a more humane and important place. By and large, they were low-wage workers whose salaries were a crucial mainstay for their families. Without these wages, many of these workers and their families are slipping into poverty. Instead of the dignity of a paycheck, many will wind up on public assistance and end up costing the taxpayer more money on public assistance than they would getting a job for the work they were giving. But the real irony here is that these workers may have been sacrificed without actually saving the city any money. In many instances, their jobs were immediately filled by contract workers.
I think that people who are laid off in that fashion, that we need to try to find a way to make certain that they get back in as soon as possible. And I think that we should try and get a commitment from others that and that's the reason why I'm excited about the fact that the council members and members of Congress is going to get together on a sort of regular basis to talk about it, because I think that there is a lot of information that you have that we do not have, and that we are in a position to do some things, and the reason we don't do them is because we do not have the information to do it. So I think that this meeting today is just so important to bring us together to talk about what we can do.
Private enforcement, that is to enable a union or a city worker to sue in court to enforce it, because otherwise you're waiting for a city official or a city agency to enforce it, and they may ignore it or evade it. But you give a union or representative of city workers the ability to go to court and say they can't hire, give the union the ability to go to court to object to a contract on the grounds that the cost-benefit analysis hasn't been done, or that the proper conclusion hasn't been reached. Then it becomes enforceable.
Class warfare had been taking place for quite some time. That's how people lost their homes. That's how people lost their jobs. That's how children were not properly being educated. It has been all part and parcel of a class of individuals in our civil society who have decided that they are above and beyond the rest of us who have toiled to make them the wealthy individuals that they are.
And when I go back to Congress, along with my colleagues, hopefully, I intend to form a contracts caucus where we look at these questions and we look at where our federal dollars are going.
Absolutely.
And what can we do to help the economy of our great country and the selfless people that are working here?